Holler if you hear me, and welcome to tonight's edition of Art Uncensored. It is the top of the hour, 10 p.m. Eastern, and we are here and together to go and draw the one and only Ghost for the first time in a long time. When it comes to 90s comics that you don't remember but should, and there probably are people out there that do have enough of a fan base for it, considering that they're now Dark Horse is doing a compendium. Yeah, we've got Ghost. Yes, Ghost, something that was a part of the explosion of the 90s speculator boom and all of that. You had Dark Horse expanding into doing their own superhero characters with the Comics Greatest World imprint. And while Barbed Wire is the one that people by attrition remember the most because of there being a movie and all that, but also there was Ghost, which, like Barbed Wire and I believe also X, which is another Comics Greatest World superhero Dark Horse did, Ghost is now getting a compendium where also I do have a few of the trades that they did thanks to a Liberty Comics. Somebody must have went and sold them their Ghost trades from like the 90s, and I have a few of them, mainly on the back of nothing against the character. The character does at least have an exciting look, but very simple look at the same time. Simple and exciting, that's what you got to do with a memorable superhero costume. At the same time, because of me being a connoisseur of Adam Hughes, while also paradoxically not being interested in just getting cover art, actually having Adam Hughes do real honest-to-God comics and not just covers, like he did with some issues of Ghost in the 90s. All right, well, I'll be there. Like how I have a Betty and Veronica trade because it's that Betty and Veronica miniseries that Adam Hughes wrote and drew. Or how I actually was interested in that one DC finest trade that they had for the post-crisis Justice League, where they had Adam Hughes there as like the career-making run he had as the interior artist for a couple years on that. Where, of course, his cover art at least emphasized fire and ice. I do have a few of them as back issues, but I've been meaning to really go through that whole Giffen DeMatteis run, especially with it being what made Adam Hughes a star after he got his name doing other things for smaller publishers, like a title called The Maze Agency, which John K. King, Used Rare Books, has a copy of the trade for that, of that Adam Hughes drawn issues of The Maze Agency by Adam Hughes, but also the store wants like $30 for it. But still, knowing them, it probably is a lot less than if you went and looked at it on eBay for those trades. But I do have this one issue I had immediately within reach. I'd have to go down to the basement to my long boxes to find where the trades for Ghost are, but certainly memorable. And also the fact that she's packing and gun toting, well, that's definitely going to be making, between the big breasts and the guns, it's going to be making a lot of blue hairs and a lot of male feminists incredibly angry and terrified at the same time. So if there's any reason to love her, I know that's for sure. Absolutely, positively. But now, as we're moving on and upwards and forwards, now really we're crystallizing everything that we'll be doing with issue 8 and issue 9 of Encrypted. Issue 8 that we've got is what I'm going to be the storyline wise. I really have to go and pay as much attention to that as possible to really just make sure that every single detail is crammed out. If not fully scripting it, then at the very least having a very sharply rendered outline for the story, so that I am not going to be stuck in any sort of area of like what to think of next. Which, yeah, that's sort of, which there were definitely with those issues of Encrypted that I'd done before, that I'd done previously when I was focusing on doing, the page a day and all that, where I did have, with each one of them, I always made sure to have the actual plot in mind, not exactly super detailed, but still actually having a story in mind, and also knowing what the ending is. That's been a personal rule with doing Encrypted, is to always make sure the ending is completely sharp. And yes, with issues 8, 9, and 10, I do know exactly what it is I want with the endings, but also with 8 all the way through up to 11, I want to make sure that the full, like a very detailed Wikipedia plot summary. There's one good thing that can come from Wikipedia, is that if you look at the plot summaries they'll have for movies or for comics or whatever, that can actually be a good thing to study when it comes to coming up with like a good story treatment for a comic or what have you. And when it comes to doing the plot outline for these next 4 issues of Encrypted, that's a thing to look towards. And also, yes, a hello right there to Austin. And also, we got a good evening. Yes, a good evening ahead. And yes, absolutely, positively, I want what I want. I want. Yeah. Because all I want, yes, the day after day, your whole lives are wrecked, the powers that breathe, just breathe down your neck. So grab up your rules, grab up your shakas. All I want, yeah, 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 yeah. Like one specific detail I can bring up about issue 8 is that I can tell you for sure there's going to be a few pages of the story that are going to be actually done in color. And that this will be the first issue 8, to have like fully to be done ahead of time with fully color interiors. Now, in the time between the publication of issues 5 through 7, there might be some color additions to the interiors of there, but I can definitely confirm that there is a page, that there is a sequence of issue 8 that's going to be done with full color to the interior pages in mind. So be prepared for that, as we're going to be getting in there. And well, you might just want to, if you want to see a little reference as to what type of imagery that we'll be trying to go and render in color, a little something more like this. Something in this tradition, you will then see what we'll be doing with coloring those pages of issue 8, making it very, very up and out there. And that will then, although each story still is self-contained, I still will say that issue 9 is definitely going to be a reflection of issue 8, that there's going to be things that you'll see and learn about and plot developments of issue 9 that will immediately affect how issue 8 goes. I can tell you that. And also confirm that issue 9, that's the one we're going to be doing throughout October, and that we will be focusing on a liminal space kind of horror with that. That we will be doing something that you could compare to Backrooms, or, for my video game fans, the PT demo for Silent Hill, that Silent Hills game that was supposed to be done, but we know all we got was that one demo. Yeah, something like that. Something like that, along with also the work of MC Escher. You might be seeing, you'll definitely be something that's more of an MC Escher inspired use of liminal space with, precedents in video games and in movies, but not really comics. Like, you've never really seen, or at least I don't know of any liminal space focused kind of comics out there at all, whether they're horror or mystery, anything. Not at all. So that is something that will be going on and trying to go and innovate, at least when it comes to comic book wise. So we'll be making sure of that with issue 8 and 9. Issue 10 does have a different story. Like I said, that one revolves around John Teeter. So with that case, we might wind up, having some other type of new visual novelty to kind of go and put into issue 10 to deal with, the predestination paradoxes and the man out purposefully out of time that will be involving that. And then from there, we'll be going into issue 11, which I will say that issue 11, I still do not have a concept for that, but considering it's the penultimate issue before we get to the 7 stars of issue 12, which I know exactly what ending I have in mind and all that, well, that's where I think, the more I'm working on this and the more, having things on hand like these little boys right here definitely will be more in helping to get a something going in the mind to make issue 11 be, actually have a story behind it instead of completely going blind. And then the final issue having everything else in the story beyond its epic conclusion. I guess, yes, with the Ditko Doctor Strange inspired coloring. And yes, liminal rules. Yes, you'll be seeing some new kind of liminal rules going on with issues 8 and 9 at the very least. Oh yeah, do not be disturbed or worried about that. Unless, of course, you're one of the people that's one of the characters inside the story of what's going on with issue 10 and issue 9 and 8. You'll have to be waiting on that one. So there we go. Making it fun. Because it'll be a fun time, I think, for all of us. At least I'll enjoy it. But remember, at the same time, how much I enjoy it or don't enjoy it is completely meaningless, because it's at the end of the day, it's all about you. You're the ones buying it. You're the ones ordering it. So you're the ones ordering me around. You are the publisher. That's the thing about doing, anything independently or doing any kind of crowdfunding work, is that, you that actually put your money behind it, you become the publisher. You become the ones in charge. And I'm answering to you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one way or another. which honestly is how I think it should work. Yes, answering to my public, how in one way or another is definitely what I should be having in mind or what I should be focusing on. And well, I have not come across any intensely really negative sort of reaction to it to encrypted, except for the lettering in the earlier issues or issue 1. I printed those responses in the back of issue 2 about about the lettering being too thin or too light to be able to read. That was something that now I have been working on that now since then with using thicker penmanship, thicker pen lines. Now I do most of the lettering, at least the standard lettering size. I went from an 01 at, let's say, the Pigma microns for demonstration. I have a couple of them right here. Yeah, I believe I was using an 005, and that was the size I was using for issue 1 and all that. And the complaints about it, 005 being too thin a line, and it was difficult to read. Well, that's why I moved up to this is an 08, but yeah, an 03. Now I've upgraded the line thickness to now using an 03 line thickness. And that has been something where now the lettering, I do not go on and see that. Yeah, listening to one's audience is a lost art. At least in the comic book world, yeah, it's definitely a lost art. It's as lost as the lost ark. And well, I think that's probably another reason why you will see those types, online. The ones, and why they would never want anything to do with me. Between actually delivering on what I promised to people and actually listening to a real audience that's actually a paying reading audience, not the Dick Masterson crowd, that now you see where I go with what. And yes, love the clicks. Well, I am definitely in agreement that the lettering itself should be as much of a piece of the artwork as possible instead of just, blank text. That's the thing with a digital lettering I do not like, is that it just treats it like it's some sort of production. Like as much as we think of like the logo or logo design is an important art to do it. But yeah, even then, yes, you still should not be applying it like it's just some sort of extra thing. No, it really should be as much of an artwork in and of itself. And if you're like me and you're also doing the lettering, then yes, the lettering should be as much a part of the artwork as anything else. Yeah, love the clicks, or even using sound effects as panels right there, which is something I first saw Frank Miller do. And well, it's a visual nod. It's a unique visual that comics can do that you can't really do anywhere else. When it comes to showing things that the comic book medium can do over at other media, there's something. As lost as this cursed X-Men movie and its strange, fractured, and actually somewhat toxic fan base, X-Force fans, take refuge. Yeah, that's a great page. And then there's when it comes to the sound effects right there, and having sound captions in lieu of panels. Well, there you go. And then below with our none. Or here's one also I liked when it comes to showing all of that. Something very much inspired by Howard Chaykin, in particular, his one of the Times Squared comics that he did in the 80s after he did American Flag. Times Squared was a duology of one-shots he did that first published after he had given up on doing any more of American Flag. But they kept publishing American Flag with new artists and new writers. Yeah, love the Bombs being lettered, very nice. And I also actually like how this turned out. Of the broken rosary as framing, as panel framing right there. That's something that also I at the very least I have not seen done. So that's something that I'll lay claim to having innovated, because I haven't seen it done anywhere else. When it comes to how you can frame pages or frame panel borders, well, at least I don't know of any comic that has used a rosary to frame pages. Or another use right there of that potential Clinton cleaner getting taken care of. Because haven't you heard about the bird? That last page is my favorite with all the little cross symbols. Yes. Get encrypted #4 now. Yes, yes, yes. It's up and it's ready. And don't forget about pre-ordering issue 5, like our friend Austin did. And if you want to see more of it, all the original artwork that I've done, I still own all the original artwork for Encrypted. So any of it and all of it is available for sale, even if it's not up in the store. Because yes, I do have a separate category for just the original pages of encrypted related artwork. And if you want to see the ones I do have in the store, well, I'll show you for a bit. But yeah, the framing in the rosary adds to the immersion. Yes. And that's another thing about the Cal Arts cringe fests with DC or Marvel is that as much as they despise Steve Ditko the man for how much he followed Ayn Rand instead of following Tumblr, they very much like to go and use the incessant 6-panel border grid for just not making every page as monotonous as their worldview is. And he also says, I dig manga, but they almost never letter anything. The sound effects, symbols in particular, are just begging to be lettered with details. Yes, but that's not the way that they work. Yeah, here's the pages I picked out that I try to make it where there be 4 original pages, an issue in the store right now with the 4 issues that have actually been published of Encrypted. Here, Encrypted original art pages. And well, we've got that one with the Clinton cleaner getting blammed away right here. And yes, all original pages are $425 a piece. Nice. Austin says priced right. Yes, well, remember, I'm writing and drawing and lettering everything, so that's why it is all up to me to try to gauge how this would work. And also there's this one. Although maybe I'll go and replace one of them in here with the one with all the little crosses that Austin was talking about. I'll show you. I still have the original scan of it. Yeah, I'm especially not precious about keeping my original pages because I do have the scans for each page, so I don't necessarily need to keep the originals on point. Yeah, here it is. This was the original scan, the scan for that original page with Fiona running into her car, driving away with all the screaming out there. Why? Using the Y in different fonts and different line thicknesses as panel borders to each one. Using sound effects is something I saw. That's another thing with Howard Chaykin, another Howard Chaykin visual that I first saw him do with his Shadow, Blood, and Judgment comic. And I believe I saw it there and that it was done there first, and then he applied it to other comics of his since then. But yeah, there's that one right there. That's the page that he was talking about. Yeah, if you have the scans, who really needs the OGs? Artists usually end up selling them at some point at a convention anyway, and hell, especially considering, although one thing about doing your artwork still originally on hand drawn, that's what makes doing your comic art digitally a stupid self-destructive idea, especially with how terribly cheap and underpaying that especially Marvel is. You could have so much of an extra income if you actually have an honest-to-God public that is honest-to-God loving what you do. Then you would be able to find people, or at the very least, there would be original art collectors that would want to go and get that original page and have it there and give you a nice little check. So why wouldn't you be, offering your original pages to be sold? So here's what I'm doing right now. The way Square is limited, the way it works, if you have more than 20 items in a single category of your store, then it winds up interfering with site functionality and making it operate slower. So that's why I only have a portion of each each issue's original pages up in the store. And yeah, then when issue 5 comes in, it'll be a matter of still trying to keep it to 4 original pages an issue, and then whittle it down to 3 with issue 6 and onward. Till then, by the time we get to issue 12, it'll mostly be a single page of each issue, with a few getting 2 original pages available in the store, barring somebody coming in and actually opening up their checkbook really wide to buy a whole slew of them. But Yeah, there with this one, especially with the different forms of aliens that you saw first at the end of issue 2, with the it being exposed in full view of the public that yes, not only are aliens real, but that aliens have been living amongst the people and infecting them ever for a very long time, for decades. And that our governments are that all of the EU and UN nations all had access to alien DNA as far back as the late 1940s. So here we are with those. And also, this is the one. It's cropped out at the top, but that's the one with the Blam panels in there, with the nun and with Fiona there laying on the ground after having been shot. So now you know why I always keep so much reference nearby, or how my sister even asked, if they remind you so much of Dad and you don't like Hugh Hefner, then why do you have all these Playboys around? And well, answer to the question is drawing reference. There's a hell of a lot that I can get out of keeping those Playboy, the Playboy back issues around. Hell, I just brought up Adam Hughes. Now I know much Adam Hughes is a big inspiration, all that. And there was that Wizard magazine interview he did where he talked about how he was on record of saying that instead of going to an art school, he had all he needed to learn how to draw comics, but a light pad, tracing paper, and a stack of Playboys. So, well, why not? And if you don't think Adam Hughes is a terrific comic artist, with him, tracing off of God knows whatever, whether it's Playboy or something else, then that's that's just you being a disingenuous jackass. That's just you being very stupid. And also, I updated so that now the sketch covers I've done can have their own category. As you see right here, the encrypted sketch covers now are in their own separate category away from the encrypted promo art, with the encrypted prints we have, and all these color pieces of Fiona in different wardrobes. Now we scroll down past the original art pages from the comic, and you get the 4 sketch covers I did of her. Because, well, why not? And from there, yes, we also have some issue 1 pages I'm still proud of, like this one right here, with trying to do something unique with the page with Fiona investigating. And then in comes this one. But remember, with each issue, I do try to go and improve on the last one. So, you find this lazy or you find it too simple, well, then I actually take that under advisement. And with each new issue, I go and wind up, building on it, because the, criticism or whatever I've gotten has been very, very genuine. It's been actually constructive. I do not deal with any kind of shithead trolls at all that are just, shitting on it, because then again, those people are terminally online brokies who don't actually have the money to be able to go and buy the comic to be able to go and see it, because they're too busy giving all that whatever extra income they have, whatever disposable income they have, to Ethan and Skyver. So they can't actually go and buy comics, or they have an aversion to spending it on those who can actually finish and deliver the product that they said they would. So yeah, it's as sad to see as something Nick sent me earlier in the day, where in the bath, he sent me a photo of how in the bathrooms at his job, they now have a sign up there that says there is no washing of genitals in the sink. Yes, apparently not only are there now employees of his, these illegals that are, being seen washing their feet in the toilet and have to be told not to do it, or eating soup with their bare hands. Now, apparently also they're being caught washing their genitals in the bathroom sinks and have to be told not to. So these are people that, they're engineers and doctors, and yet they don't know that you don't wash your feet in the toilet and you don't wash your genitals in the sink. Excuse me. Really? 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 I'm not kidding you about that. He sent the photo that showed that this is real, and that's where you're getting all them engineers. That's where you're getting all them doctors, getting all them lawyers from the third world that doesn't understand how to eat soup with a spoon. Yes, when you need to tell people not to wash their genitals in public restroom sinks, you need to overhaul your employees. Yes, your hiring policies might change a little bit. They should, because it's almost as disturbing as that case that involved the brutal group murder of a little kid that was found in this one county in Ohio. Yeah. What the hell is the matter? And also, what I even joked about this with Nick about what's next. What's the next thing? Is there going to be a sign about how there is no sacrificing of chickens during business hours? Or now that I think about it, no eating the dogs or eating the cats during work hours. No eating the dogs or eating the cats during work hours. Don't eat the dogs. Don't eat the cats. No eating the dogs. No eating the cats. Don't eat the dogs. And don't eat the cats. You shouldn't need a president to have to explain this to people, but it looks like we're going to have to go and explain this to some very, very stupid people. Even the worst MS-13 Mexican illegal knows you don't wash your dick and balls in the sink. You don't wash your feet in the toilet unless you seriously do not understand how the first world works. It's like when you look at all those Indian tribes who didn't know what the wheel was and hunted the buffalo to near extinction, but they were, supposedly painting with all the colors of the wind because white guilt in Disney movies gives a lot of easily led white people their knowledge of how the Indians were. Because wow. And remember, it's that same kind of white guilt that leads to hiring people where you need to go and spend the time to put up signs that say no washing of the genitals in the sink. I'm going to assume you already know why that is both disturbing and sad, and move on. Just a little bit. But when it comes to things that are stupid and sad, but are really, but is not something that's real, it's just a bit of comedy. Let's look at this.
Help employers reach out to you.
We get a lot of ideas after dark. Denny's is actually a good one.
Women deal with catcalling nonstop, and I'm constantly being berated by men yelling things like, nice tits, you're really beautiful, or begging me for a piece of the action. So I wanted Marcus to come here and watch me teach men a lesson by giving them a taste of their own medicine.
Yeah, I've never really seen anybody catcall her, but she says it happens pretty frequently.
Marcus!
That's mainly her lying. And also, when there was that one lady who did the video where she had a hidden camera following her walking down New York City, and every dude that was catcalling her or following her was a black dude, and there were, white women angry about that. She said, I promise that I will release footage showing of white guys catcalling her and following her like that, and then never released it because she never had any of that footage. Well, remember, this video is also being done in New York City.
Here, it's time for men to learn a lesson. Yeah, you want to have sex right now?
Mom, he's coming. Mom, he's coming over here. He's coming over here.
How'd you like that?
How much?
Just free. How you like that?
Free?
In the alleyway right now. You don't like the tables getting turned, do you?
That alley over there?
Yeah. Well, how'd you like that, big boy?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Well, no kids.
I don't want. So she's been gone for a while now. Yesterday, she told me she hopes I take after her by having sex with a lot of men.
So I just sucked that guy off for all women.
Mom, this is weird. I want to play soccer.
Hey, how'd you like me to come work that dick over?
Mom, stop.
Hey, beautiful. How are you?
Hey, you're beautiful. Hey, you want to do something about it?
Who is this guy?
Yeah, that's called my son, and he's learning a lesson right now.
Please don't go with my mom.
Hey, respect your stepfather, buddy.
That's right, he is learning some respect.
Can I grab your boob?
Yeah, you want to grab my boob?
Yeah, you like that?
Oh, take Oh, yeah. Oh, your tongue is dry.
Well, the pot-addicted, drugged-out feminist is most definitely somebody that would not be well hydrated. Their idea of hydration is a soy latte.
Well, Marcus, I hope you're learning a valuable lesson right now. Okay, hey, big boy.
Mom, I want to go home. Why did they have to film this?
Male fragility much?
None of my friends have to do this.
You know what? You're cramping my style anyway. You know what? I'm going to let the camera person take you home, and I'm going to stay here myself and teach a few more men some lessons. And no, I won't apologize for making the world a better place. Oh, there he is. Want to get sucked off?
Yeah. Well, at least that's one of those where it's funny and I could see it happening, but it's not actual footage. So that is fun. That is fun. La ta 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 ta. 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 And if you want to see a little bit of more fun before we get into what we do, let's see a little bit of Italian school.
I know you love it here, but kids aren't learning anything at that Italian school.
Look at these big ones. Rat-a-ta-ta-ta, rat-a-ta-ta-ta, rat-a-ta-ta-ta.
Is this calculus?
I don't know. Rat-a-ta-ta-ta.
I think maybe
I'm guessing there was an Italian exchange student that said no to Seth MacFarlane, and he's still bitter about that. Because pretty much every joke at a woman's expense in on Family Guy is built around Seth MacFarlane's rage issues over how girls told him no in high school. And that is pretty much something that cannot be denied. But now, let's go and begin the talent portion. With the dogs and the cats. No eating the dogs, no eating the cats. Well, then what do I have for dinner? All right, let's move on. Switching. Ha 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 ha. There we go. And yes, remember, people, at your job, do not wash your genitals in the sink or your feet in the toilet. All right. Water hot enough for ya. Don't tell me you're so damn stupid you don't know the difference between hot and cold. What the hell? Look, I found a treasure. That's not treasure, it's soap on a rope. I'm pretending it's a treasure. Get out of my goddamn scuba gear, you imbecile. Oh no, the treasure. It went into an underwater cave. Get out of the toilet. Dad, you saved me from the giant barracuda, but it's good. I salvaged the treasure so we can live like kings. We can live like kings. You clean this up and you got yourself a job, you retard. Because I'm the backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man. I'm backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man, the backwards man. I go back as fast as you can. I go back as fast as you can because I'm the backwards man, the backwards man. Backwards man, the backwards man. Backwards man, the backwards man. I'm backwards man, the backwards man. Backwards man, the backwards man. Lord, what the fuck are you doing? Oh. You're fired. You're fucking fired, Bob. I'm talking 30 million fucking Deutschmarks here, Bob. 30 million fucking Deutschmarks. I say Geneva, you hear Helsinki. No, you have to. There you want to there with the And it's a question I ask anybody when the subject of Freddie Got Fingered comes up, especially the bit with the girlfriend, where he wants his girlfriend to slow down on the whole, just constantly just giving him blowjobs, and after he canes her. And I wonder, he talks about, if we went out on at least one regular date, the sucking to dating ratio would then be a little more balanced. And in the eyes of you out there, the audience, what is the balanced sucking to dating ratio? What is the sucking to dating ratio that is properly balanced? I wonder. And because it goes without saying that we all would enjoy if we all would truly love to have a woman in our life that did not care about jewels. She just wanted to suck our cock. Even if we were poor, she would still just want to stay home and just suck our cock. Good. I don't care about jewels. I got them all for you, Betty. They're jewels. They're jewels. But good, I don't care about jewels. I just want to suck your cock. Which, when I saw that in the theater opening night when I was 9, that got one of the biggest laughs in the theater. Was the "I just want to suck your cock" line. You really mean that, don't you, Betty? Yes, you do. You got them all for you. And RJ loves that scene. As well, you should. It is a beautiful moment of actual genuine romance between when a man loves a woman. When a man loves a woman, Freddie, it's because they love me more than they love you. I only see one LeBaron, Freddie. Do you see 2 LeBarons? Are there 2 LeBarons? It says number 1 son. Oh, I'm the number 1 son. I'm gonna make you proud, Daddy. I'm gonna make you so proud. You make your daddy proud, proud, proud. Get the fuck out of the way! And of course, followed by the horse, the first horse we see in the movie. Vosh's idea of a porno. Oh, I want to touch the horsey. Maybe that, whoever was the disturbing bastard that scrambled Vosh's brain by forcing himself on him as a child, maybe he took Vosh as a little boy to see Freddie Got Fingered and convinced them that it was a porno. That would not surprise me whatsoever. And speaking of Adam Hughes, I found a little something. To go a little right here. For when a man loves a woman, Freddie.
As a sequential storyteller, working for an indie book like The Maze Detective Agency, and then getting into something as high profile as the Justice League.
I started out in the 1980s, way back in the late 1900s, and it was very, very easy for anybody to get a job in comics. It was a boom time. There were, the big 2, Marvel and DC, but there were tons of high-end independent companies, like Dark Horse or First, Clips, many that I'm not naming. And then there were a lot of little ones. The dividing line back then was, did you have color in your comic book? And if you didn't need color, anybody with a pencil and a dream could print a comic. So it was very, very easy for me to get in. I didn't think I was ready, but I was 19 and I got my first work, and it's just been one long series of, assignments after assignments after assignments. The Maze Agency was my first color book, which was for Kamiko, one of the big publishers back in the 80s. I was working on that for a year and a half. And it was funny was when Kamiko folded like a card table, they called everybody up and said, pencils down, don't work. And I was like, oh, okay. And they said, don't tell. This is pre-internet, by the way, pre-email, pre-texting. And they were like, don't tell anybody that we're going on hiatus. And I was young and stupid, but I knew hiatus meant it was over. Uh, and they said, don't tell anybody because we haven't been able to reach some of the biggies like Matt Wagner to let them know what's going on. I said, okay. And I put my pencil down and I sat there for 45 minutes going, oh, what am I going to do now? And then I got a call, literally 45 minutes later, I got a phone call from DC Comics from the editor of the Justice League, Andy Helfer, saying, hey, I hear Kimiko's on hiatus. Do you want a job? You want to draw the Justice League? And I was like, how did you find out? You know, it's supposed to be a secret. And that's how I jumped from, uh, a fairly popular independent comic to DC's flagship superhero title. I didn't think I was ready, but that's never stopped me before. So I jumped in and became the regular artist on that title, Justice League America.
I had the chance last night to read your first issue, and I was amazed at how sharp your skills were, and obviously there's been a long evolution in your style, but how well defined you seem to have an idea of character and acting, and certainly.
And hello to Anonymous. Speaking of messed up people, I watched that Sick Mind of EDP 445 documentary. That man is lucky he's not in a cell or a casket. Well, much so basically he's a black Vito Giswaldi. Good to know. And yes, everybody say hello to Anonymous right there. Was slightly here, but not full. Well, hey, I hope that Ghost and her big titties will bring in the attention.
I guess leaning into what Kevin Maguire was sort of doing with the facial expressions to kind of tell part of the story. So when you are making that move from Kimiko, where maybe you aren't getting the same sort of editorial guidance, or maybe, from what I understand, Keith Giffen would maybe plot by doing more of like a thumbnail. How does it help you develop those skills, putting a story on, on panels, on pages?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, Keith always, for those not familiar with the title, it was the idea for the story was come upon by Keith Giffen. He would do his version of, a rough or a script in pencil form. He would take typing paper and he would actually, being a visual artist, he would do it visually with little word balloons indicating, what the characters might be saying. The penciler like Kevin Maguire or Ty Templeton or myself would go in and draw it from that, and then J.M. DeMatteis would actually go in and do the final script. Having Keith do that heavy labor of breaking, breaking the sort of visual spine of the storytelling up front freed me to sit there and go, okay, I was allowed to modify, to change, to do what I wanted, and more often than not, I didn't. I trusted Keith, and I did what Keith knew how to tell the story, so I had time to focus on things like goofy faces and the stuff that Kevin Maguire had established, a sort of a trademark of that run of Justice League comics, needed to be continued. That's probably why I got the job. Was because I could do, I used to say that, the majority of comic book artists in American superhero comics have three facial expressions, which is happy, angry, and angrier. And with the Justice League, you needed to be able to do a lot more. So I was very, very fortunate to have Keith as the guy who was sort of figuring out the storytelling. I mean, there are times you'll get a script that it'll say, page one, splash page of the streets of New York City. Page two, panel one, Batman sits at a computer, or whatever. Batman's not in New York City. What am I talking about? So it was good. It was a good. I was so nervous. I didn't want to do the Justice League. I wanted to do Mr. Miracle, lower profile with less characters to draw, but they really wanted me on the Justice League. And I remember the first page of that first issue of Justice League that I drew, and it was Batman and the Martian Manhunter, and I was like, "What am I doing here? I'm not ready for this." But sometimes getting thrown in the deep end is the way to go.
What was really interesting about that story was, like I say, your style comes through, and I think a lot of and I think the argument could be made, and it's obviously not my place to make that argument, that a lot of what we think about the success of that era of the Justice League happens during your 2 or so years as the primary artist. The introduction of Fire and Ice as a member of the team, and certainly their evolution visually. So as you were kind of working on those characters, are you given more freedom to just kind of lean into one's personality as it becomes evident to you, or is it still kind of, here's Keith's idea of what the story is going to be, and maybe he's not reflecting on what you're doing?
I had a lot of freedom. I had a lot of freedom. As long as I didn't vastly change, what was going on, I had the ability, not the ability, but the freedom to, you know, expand. I don't remember a time where anybody ever told me to dial something back, or you missed that story beat, or you didn't get that character beat correctly. So as I recall, it was not too bad. It was a good working relationship where I was allowed to flourish as much as I wanted to, as long as I got the pages in.
And I guess my last Justice League question is going to be switching between the human moments of a storyline and then switching into the action moments. As an artist, is it easier for you to kind of just, oh, now it's an action page, I can have some fun with a big punch here and an explosion? Or are you still maybe thinking my strength is these small character moments, that wry look, the eyebrow up, the expression when someone's making a fool of themselves?
I do like the quieter moments. I do like the humor, and there's, with very few exceptions, like Kevin having Batman knock out Guy Gardner with one punch. There's not a lot of chance for subtlety and humor in a big giant fight scene. And I always found myself in those instances, you know, trying to tap into a well somewhere that I hadn't tapped before, and trying to do some stuff. Whereas, when it would get back to like, okay, afterwards, the characters are all sitting around going, woof, what a day. And it's like, I really enjoyed the woof, what a day page. It was more my thing, especially coming after the Maze Agency, where there wasn't a terrific amount of action until you would get to the denouement of the story. But it was a lot of characters standing around scratching their chins and looking through magnifying glasses going, a clue. And to this day, I still think I enjoy the the dull stuff more.
After Justice League, I guess you sort of transition into being one of the most in-demand cover artists in comics. So I was wondering how you sort of made that move.
I made that move because nobody offered.
Well, one thing also about Ghost right here is that with Ghost, her costume is mostly white, so this gives me a lot more room to go and focus on like the drawing part of it, like getting everything laid out properly in pencil form and all that. Now with that, out of the set I've got that I've been swearing by is this set of the 2mm lead holders and mechanical pencils. Well, they have 3 of the 2mm lead holders, one for 2H lead, one for HB lead, which is like the standard lead and number 2 pencils. And then there's the 2B lead, which is the softer kind that's meant more for like, darker pencil shade, more for shading or for more of a tone and shadow and light kind of drawing style instead of line-based work like what I do. But since I like to do, sharp lines, for me, these the 2H lead here works better.
Me interiors. I've had dozens of people say, oh, you're this, you're this name, you're that, you're. Why didn't you just kick down the door and say, give me Spider-Man, or something like that? So I don't think I have that clout, and I definitely don't have that personality. I go where the work is. If I've become a cover artist by, some sort of strange osmosis, it had nothing to do with me. It was just, that's the work that was thrown my way. I still do a lot of interiors. I mean, I can't do a monthly book because it would look like garbage and it would drive me crazy. doing it, doing a monthly book as a young person's game. But I still do interiors, and when I do them, I promote them out the wazoo, and nobody seems to. Only a small core group of fans seems to notice, and I still have to endure, people on social media. Why don't you do more comics? And I have to go, oh, Dr. Manhattan, Betty and Veronica, Hellboy. Yeah, I have to rattle off all these things. I'm like, oh, I didn't know you worked on those, and I was like, come on, I tried to tell you. Tried to tell you. The critic once, sort of accused the great Lawrence of Arabia, the great T.E. Lawrence, who shunned fame and didn't want it, and said that he just kept accidentally backing into the spotlight. And I always thought that was a wonderful turn of phrase. And it's like, if I've become a cover artist of any note, it's because I've accidentally backed into being a cover artist. It was never a plan. Once I realized it could pay the bills, you could help make ends meet, and I could have the creative freedom I was looking for, I didn't fight it.
And I think a lot of your covers have become iconic. I'm thinking, of course, of that one cover you did, the gatefold cover for Wizard, where it was the heroines of DC Comics all in white, and you managed to capture their personalities and I guess the feel of those characters to readers. So when you are given a cover assignment, how do you sort of lean into?
And not a single one of them is a flat-chested cow arts lesbian that's screaming about climate change, I might add.
What you think the character is saying versus what the editorial might be, and make sure that you're satisfying your urge as a creator and their urge as somebody who's looking to sell as many books as possible.
Well, it changes from job to job, editor to editor, company to company. That piece you're talking about was actually a poster with all the women of the DC universe, in sort of an Annie Leibovitz Vanity Fair fold out. They were just like, we want to do the poster. We want to do this as a giveaway poster. It was never.
Yeah, those big Oscar preliminary fold out covers that Vanity Fair will do of all like the big new actresses in Hollywood whenever it's leading up to the Oscars. The one where for years Harvey Weinstein could have gone and photoshopped himself onto that cover with a comic book dialogue balloon saying, I had sex with all these women. And it would be absolutely true.
Meant to be a retail poster. They wanted to do a promotional thing for San Diego Comic-Con that year, featuring all their female characters, dressed up all fancy. And I said, well, let's have them all dressed up like it's a Vanity Fair cover. And they said, that's a great idea. So that was one of those instances of they had an idea and we did a little bit of back and forth. There are other times where somebody will come to me and say, we need a Black Cat cover. And I'll go, what do you want her doing? And they go, we don't care. Just we want a nice shot of Black Cat to help sell comic book covers. I'm getting further and further enough away from puberty where just drawing the sexy character isn't enough anymore. I have to have some kind of little story going on. I have to have some little something happening that either makes the reader laugh or it's the pregnant moment before the action or it's the sort of like moment after the action. Anytime you see stuff like that, that's usually me throwing that in. But like I recently did a She-Hulk cover for Nick Lowe over at Marvel, and it was She-Hulk as a lawyer, and she's leaning on the judge's bench to make her final summation, but she's so big and heavy and powerful that she breaks the bench. And the way he worded that was like, hey, would you want to do another
single female lawyer having lots of sex?
The She-Hulk cover? I said, sure, I love drawing She-Hulk. And he said, it could be something like She-Hulk breaking the judge's bench, accidentally and having like an oops face or just do whatever you want. And, sometimes those editors are like, they've got something that like, oh, they'd love to have me, do an idea that they came up with. I like Nick, so I won't use my usual comparison of like, oh, these editors and art directors that just want Adam Hughes as some kind of art monkey, they just sit there, here's your banana, draw. I've got, such a mild-sized ego that if somebody came along and said, hey, would you do a cover? I'm just going to throw this out there. Do whatever you want, but I'm just going to throw this out there. And if the thing they throw out there is like, oh, yeah, I can totally see that in my head. That's a sure sign for me is when I don't have to ponder or stare at the sunset and wonder, like, how shall I fill this space? When somebody says something and I go, oh, I can totally see that in my head. I am ready to start drawing that cover right now. I'll take it and I'll give them full credit. One of my most famous covers is the cover to Catwoman 51. It's the mugshot cover, and my wife came up with that. The editorial dictate was Catwoman is returning to her life of crime and she's not happy about it. And I went, okay, that's a good vague dictum. That's a good vague art direction. And I was sitting there thinking about it out loud. And my wife said, well, what about a mugshot? And I just kind of went, yeah, obviously. That's obviously. The mugshot says, I've returned to crime, and she's crying, and her mascara is running. She's unhappy about it. And I was problem solved. The covers are arrived at by, I don't know if it works for everybody else. I don't know how it is for some young person starting out. But for me, at this stage in my career, some people are, they want something specific. Some people just want me to, just, here's 10 yards of rope, go hang yourself, run around the yard, do whatever you want. And I can work all the ways. If it's a fun gig, if it's a well-paying gig, you'll sit there and I'll sit there and go, yeah, okay. I look at an artist like Mobius, Jean Giraud, the late French artist, one of the greatest masters of comics. And he had so many different styles. He had his sci-fi style, he had his blueberry style, he had all these different ways of delivering the goods to a client. And I've always admired that. Ultimately, regardless of like whether you think I have to move piles of money out of the way just to get to the bathroom, and I'm so rich that if you try to visit me, I'll release the hounds. Being versatile, being a bit of a Swiss Army knife as a working artist is really beneficial. I think that everybody that does just one thing, that's fine. You're probably going to master that, but you never know how the winds of the world are going to change. And I like being able to work in a couple different medium, something. Me am right good, as Bizarro would say. The but to be able to offer editors and art directors and prospective clients different ways of working. You can work under a strict hand. You can work with, if you leave me to my own devices. I personally feel that when I'm left to my own devices, I do my best work. When people sit there and say, "Can you draw me a Wolverine cover and have it by the end of the month?" and I said, "I will see you at the end of the month." That's sometimes, I would say, 19 times out of 20 that works better than the editor saying, okay, we want a Wolverine cover, but he's got to be doing this, he's got to have this on his face, he's got to be standing in this. It's like, okay.
Now, as you're working on covers, I know a lot of them aren't the traditional, or at least they don't seem to be the traditional, pen and ink or brush and ink. So when you're working on a cover, what sort of techniques are you using?
I have two main techniques when I'm working. Both are half analog and half digital. I always refer to myself as being amphibious. I will do a pen and ink cover, like a standard traditional pen and ink cover, like they've done for over 100 years. And then I'll scan it into the computer and I'll color it in Photoshop or some other digital coloring application. The other way that I like to work is slightly less traditional, where I'll do a grayscale illustration using markers and pencils and colored pencils and do a really well rendered grayscale illustration, scan that into the computer, and then I will colorize it in the computer. When you look at Photoshop, I remember when I was first being taught Photoshop for the use of coloring comics back in the mid 90s, and somebody told me, because I would sit there and go, well, what's this button for? What's that tool for? And they said, coloring a comic book using Photoshop uses about 5% of what Photoshop's capable of. And they said Photoshop, of course, was originally created to doctor photographs. And one of the things you do is colorize a black and white photo. And it occurred to me that, like, well, okay, if you can use it to colorize a black and white photo, why can't I use that in a method similar to the old painters where you would do a graphite drawing, you would put a wash over it, usually brown, so you'd have this sort of monochromatic brown piece, and then you would bring the colors up in your opaque paints. And I thought, like, well, I think I can do something analogous to that with Photoshop, and I've had a fair amount of success with it.
And when you're working on a cover, I know that we met at HeroesCon this year. I know that original art has become a commodity for artists. So does this impact your ability to produce something that you could sell to a collector? And again, I'm not looking for any sort of numbers, but just the idea that you can monetize this once it's been published.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's you know, I mean, I don't understand NFTs and all that kind of stuff, but it's real easy to sell original piece of artwork if you've got it, and there are still collectors out there. And my wife, Allison, who is also my art dealer, she refuses to let me have a stylus because she knows I'll start working almost completely on the computer and there won't be any originals to sell. And selling the originals helps pay the mortgage. So I'm
The fact that Adam Hughes actually has a mortgage shows you the level of talent and importance he has in the industry that all of the G. Willow Wilson and Gabby Rivera types will never have. And they deserve to never have them.
I just did a stint with Marvel Studios Animation. I was working for Disney for about 14 months, and I was working on character designs for animated stuff that was going to be on Disney Plus. And it was an interesting experience. I wanted to try it. It's something different, and I'm always looking for like slightly different experiences. Pardon me. To sort of, expand my experience base. Maybe I thought I could learn something new, and I did learn a lot of things. Mostly, what I learned is what I'm bad at. It was a really good 14 months of learning. Well, I'm crap at this. Okay, I never need to do this again because I know I'm no good at it. But a buddy of mine joked while I was there, because I work the same way I work my comic book covers and illustrations. My buddy of mine says, "You realize you're the only person working in animation who still uses a pencil?" And I went, and I felt like a dinosaur. So it's the way I work, and I haven't been. I'm prepared for change. I'm prepared for the winds of the world to change, and for me to have to switch the way I do things. But for the time being, people don't seem to mind me doing half analog, half digital. Here's the final product. Hooray.
And I see we have about 3 minutes or so in our conversation left. I wanted to talk about conventions because they are, on the one hand, a great way for you to meet fans and for you to, I guess, meet fans who are interested in buying some of your artwork, but also it's a lot of work to pack up. And I know that when we met at Heroes this past year, you brought your wife, who's a wonderful person, got a chance to talk with her. But you also packed up your dogs and you had to make the trip to Charlotte, North Carolina. So when you are planning your itinerary, how far out do you think that you will travel? Is it something where you're going to go wherever the big conventions are, or are you thinking, gosh, this is really a lot of work and I'm just going to stick to the ones that I know are the easy money?
It used to be that way. I've been doing conventions since 1988, and I'm tired. I'm probably the only person in the world who was like, thank God for COVID, because I got a 2.5 to 3 year break from conventions, and when we returned in 2003, I was like, it's magical and fresh again. So there's a couple of shows we do because we like the people, the fans, the promoter. They're just like a good, we know we can do well there. We know we can have a good time there. But then there's other times like, in about a week or two, I'm getting ready to go to Stockholm, Sweden for a convention. And I've never been to Scandinavia. So I'm just sort of like, okay, cool. A lot of times these trips, these conventions are not about the money. They're not about, they're not so much about meeting new people. They're about, I've always wanted to be a comic book artist, and I thought that I was just going to live in my basement for the rest of my life, and my only contact would be the mailman. and yet now I get to go all over the world. I mean, I've been to South America and Europe and Asia, and it's just been, it's the wonderful perk that I wasn't expecting.
Well, Adam, they are telling us that we are out of time. I wanted to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with me.
Absolutely not a problem.
I'd like to thank everyone at home for watching Comic Culture. We will see you again soon.
With an ending theme that sort of sounds like Indiana Jones, but not quite. So let's see what else we can show. Or we can get a little bit of a, see if there's anything Mr. Nightmare related we can show.
This happened when I was 18. I'm 22 now. I live in San Antonio, Texas. It was my senior year of high school, but this was when COVID just started blowing up, so everything began to shut down, including my school. Even though everyone was supposed to be staying home and being in quarantine, my friend group and I were going out more than ever. There wasn't much to do since all the non-essential businesses were closed. But one thing about me, I love urban exploring, or exploring haunted places. To this day, I still do. I'm not one to scare easily. I've had a couple experiences with the homeless, cults, even had a gun pointed at me, but nothing compared to how odd and creepy this one instance I came across while exploring was. Moving forward, around this time, I started talking to a girl who I had a class with in high school. Her name was Clarissa. If it weren't for her matching my alibi of what happened this night, I'm sure none of my friends would have believed me. We were still kind of freshly dating, but I somehow convinced her to explore a wooded natural park at 3 a.m. here in San Antonio. The park is called OP Schnabel. It's relatively nice, safe, and very scenic during the day. But at night, it can be a dangerous place, and police usually roam the entrances to the area at night, keeping people away. In 2016, a 24-year-old woman named Lauren Bump was brutally murdered and stabbed over 20 times. And in 2021, a boy exploring the woods was shot. Clarissa and I get to the park around 3 a.m. It's super creepy and pitch black. The trees do a really good job at covering the moonlight. I don't like to have my flashlight on because then my eyes can't adjust to the darkness, and you can really only see what's lit up from the light. Plus, I wouldn't want someone to see my light from a far distance, so I like to keep them off while exploring. We were probably about 15 to 20 minutes in walking the main trail. I didn't plan to be in there for too long because it was kind of creepy and oddly quiet that night. I knew a trail that goes off the road that leads back to where my truck was parked. I told her we could take that trail, essentially making a full circle, instead of walking all the way back around. She agreed, and so we began walking through that off-road trail. We were probably only about 2 minutes into the off-road trail when suddenly, out of nowhere, a flute began playing. Clarissa and I stopped dead in our tracks and looked at each other, just listening. Whoever was playing
It could just be my mother practicing.
it was super in cadence and sounded like it was playing some sort of piece of music. However, there was no time for me to process that it may have sounded good. It was creepy as f***. As I said before, I don't scare easily, but 15 seconds into the flute solo, Clarissa began trembling in fear and on the brink of crying. I was kind of just listening, but when Clarissa started praying to God to save her and forgive her for her sins, that's when I realized the severity of the situation. To be clear, it was super hard to pinpoint where the sound of the flute was coming from. It sounded like it was coming from the direction of the previous main trail, which was parallel to where we were, with about maybe 30 to 50 yards of woods in between. But it was getting louder and closer, to the point where it sounded like the sound was right on top of us. Clarissa couldn't even focus because she was so scared, so I knew I had to man up and get us out of this situation. This is going to sound corny, but I told her, "Don't worry, I'm not going to let anything happen to you," and told her that we should run down the off-road trail to get away. So we did. We began to sprint. I believe the flute stopped playing, but it was hard to notice because I was more focused on getting the hell out of there. We only got about 30 feet when out of nowhere, we heard the rustling of bushes and the snapping of leaves and twigs before...
As RJ brings up, some random flute music never sounds innocent, at least not when you're in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the night. I will say that.
Something big dashed across the trail right in front of us. Now, this could have very well been a deer or some sort of bigger wildlife, but it was so strange because I could almost feel the size of whatever was in front of us. I don't know if it was from the wind or what. The only thing is, I never saw a silhouette or a shape of anything in front of us. Another strange thing is, I didn't hear it coming and I didn't hear it run away. I only heard the dash right when it was right in front of us. As soon as we felt and heard whatever dashed across the trail right in front of us, we obviously turned back around and bolted in the other direction until we got back to the original point where we heard the flute. And then, as if whoever was playing it was waiting for us to return, the flute started to play again, loud and right on top of us. This time it was almost chiming. It sounded like it belonged to some sort of Irish jig song or something, but the chiming was still in cadence. However, it was still impossible to pinpoint where the sound was coming from. It was just surrounding us. At this point, my fight or flight instincts kicked in because we were trapped. We had two options. Either go back into the off-road trail where we heard that terrifying dash right in front of us, or go back to the main trail where the flute and whatever psychopath was playing it was at. The off-road trail was definitely scarier because it was darker and surrounded by more dense forest, and at least the main trail was a cement path. Thus, I told Clarissa, who was still trembling in fear, let's start running down the main trail back to the truck. We ran back. Adrenaline was still pumping, so we cut the 20-minute walk into a 7 to 8 minute jog. And somewhere along the run, the flute noise must have stopped. Along the run back, there was a random...
And hello to Forever coming on in here. Well, I wonder if Forever you appreciated that clip talking about the girlfriend of yours in high school that sat in your lap in gym and wanted you to play with her breasts during gym along with her friend's titties. Yes, that was what was today's video. We hope you enjoyed it. We want to thank you for that material. That was fun. As right now, for the first time in a long time, we are drawing Ghost, a 90s nostalgia superhero character right there that at the very least does have actually unique qualities. And Freva says, haha, that's great. And also what we saw earlier, what I talked about earlier, Nick sent me a photo from today at his job where in the bathrooms where he works, they actually have new signs up in the bathroom saying to people to not use this bathroom sinks to wash their genitals. Remember what we were saying before, what he said before about people, about these, Somalis and all of that, using the toilets to wash their feet and eating soup with their bare hands? Well, now you need to go and tell them to not use the sinks in the bathrooms to wash their dick and balls. This is a thing. This is a thing that exists. Yes, and also I will contact Nick about whether or not he would want me to use that photo for the thumbnail, because I would love to clip that as tomorrow's videos, to clip that portion of me talking about it and use that warning in the bathroom as tomorrow's upload. Yes, it is both gross and funny and sad. When it comes to businesses and state governments actively counting on there being no border security, so that then actual citizens have to go and put up with these types who need to be told to not wash their feet or their genitals in toilets and sinks. Although I doubt they can fucking read English in the first place.
porta potty, and I was scared to death because what if someone was on the other side or hiding inside of it, because it seemed to be somewhat parallel to where we were at earlier. Thankfully, I didn't see anyone or signs of anyone ever having been there. In fact, my truck was the only vehicle in the area near the main entrance to the woods. We made it to the truck, and I sped far away from there. The next day, I told all my friends about it, and I looked all over the internet to see if anyone's ever come across anything like this. People claim to run into ghosts, cults, animals making terrifying noises, but a soft and rhythmic flute solo, I couldn't find anything on that. Or maybe I just didn't look hard enough. I tried to figure out all the possibilities. There are some houses that eventually led into a neighborhood on the far edge of the woods, but those houses are at least a couple miles away, and we were fairly deep into the woods, so there's no way the sound could have traveled that far, because I'm telling you, the flute was clear as day, and it was 3 a.m. Obviously, I never found out who was playing that flute, or what dashed right in front of us. I actually kind of got chills writing the story. The more I think about it, it actually seems more paranormal, rather than something scary on a tangible level. I don't know if it was a person, ghost, cult, or what. I'm really hoping someone might have a rational explanation. Either way, I never really went back to those woods at night. I still explore plenty of creepy places, but never really came across anything like that ever again. I'm a 20-year-old guy. I work at a medium-sized hospital in Northwest Alabama as a pharmacy technician. I work an early night shift, 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. I'm also in charge of stocking the surgery rooms.
The fact that we need signs for that is wild. I mean, these are the same people that wash themselves in cow shit, yes. And also don't forget about those mud cookies. The mud cookies and the eating the dogs and eating the cats. You know, those things that the local sheriff's departments and state police have all confirmed, but shitheads at CNN try to go and deny that. But then again, remember, CNN is the Clinton News Network, so they only report whatever it is that Hillary and Bill approve of. And then you wonder why there will be people that call them the criminal news network.
For 7 days in a row, and then I have 7 days off. Working the 7 sucks, but the 7 off feels amazing. I work Thursday through Wednesday, and on my 6th night working, a Tuesday, I left a little early to go stay with my wife at her aunt's house, about 30 minutes away from our house. She was babysitting her little cousins while her aunt and uncle were on a trip. The house didn't have any curtains, so she felt uneasy for the few nights she was there. I didn't go with her at first because it was during my work week, and she told me there was really no point if I was going to get there around 5 a.m. and then go to sleep once the sun started to rise. But on her last night babysitting, she felt extremely anxious, so I told her I was coming over. She is stubborn, but she thanked me and felt so much better once I arrived. Working the night shift for the last 2 years has really taken a toll on me mentally, and I think I've started to develop some slight insomnia. I literally could not go to sleep after getting to my wife's aunt's house. This isn't anything new, but I had never stayed up for more than about 28 hours before. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't sleep because we had a really big day ahead of us. We had to drop her little cousins off at school, our friend was having a gender reveal party, we had to go shopping because we had no groceries at home since she had been away for the last 3 days, and I had to be at work at 6 p.m. I ended up falling asleep in the car for a little less than 10 minutes. I was really feeling that wave of...
Yes, these are the same people that bless their house by having cows shit in their living room, which is almost as gross as that Tom Green show bit where he brought in all the farm animals into his parents' living room that I showed last night. I don't know if you saw that, but I will play it again. Tom Green and his parents. Yes, his parents, the things he did with the farm animals.
This cat belongs to my mother. This dog belongs to my father. My parents love these animals because they help them cope with stress. Unfortunately, they have a...
Yes, I remember those, defend your people, but now that includes, this.
A little bit too much stress to cope with these days, so I'm going to have to get them some more animals.
Banana goat, Nubian goat.
Your parents like Nubian goats?
Sure they do.
You guys like parents? My parents like llamas.
Mommy and Daddy like easy.
I don't know, the microphone's picking up the thunder we're having here, but it sounds like we're going to have a storm.
Yeah, I think it's getting close.
My parents are at work right now. They're going to be home in a couple of hours, which is good because that gives me just enough time to prepare the home for the new pets. Okay, this is perfect. We're almost done here. We've covered the floors and soft blankets for the animals to sit down. And I like to lie down cozy on the floor. And Mommy and Daddy will come home and they'll see their new babies. You're my mommy and I'm your baby. All we need now is the animals.
And yes, I would agree with we need a new bitch lasagna remix. Need that remix. Remix. Wah! Get Biz Marquee involved in the remix. That's what we need. More Biz Marquee remix.
It's 3 o'clock. My parents are going to be home from work soon. Hi, Dad. Hi. How you doing? How you doing? You like pets, huh?
Anyway.
We got a llama, and look, we got donkeys. Come see all the new friends.
How are you doing? Let me see your llama here.
You don't like the new pets?
Sure, well.
Oh, the goose is on. Oh, the goose is on. It's animal time. Hey, what?
You're spilling them all over the place.
You're mad? I'm spilling animal crackers? There's trash all over the floor. How you doing? Look, I got you a surprise. What is that?
And hello to Nick. We did talk earlier about that photo you sent me of the new bathroom sign about how people are not supposed to wash their genitals in the sink and how that is true. And we wanted your permission live on air to use that as a thumbnail for tomorrow's video. We want to take that photo and we'll stretch it and we'll frame it so that it's the centerpiece is the sign, so that it's the sign on the bathroom right there that you're not supposed to use the bathroom sink to wash your genitals. As everybody say hello to Nick, and let's hope that he gives us his permission to use that. That's a thing. Yes, you're not supposed to use the bathroom sinks at work to wash your genitals. We now need signage to explain this. We need the signs to say not to do it. It's one of those things you think you would not have to have a sign to explain. You know, like with Tom Green, we apparently needed signs to explain to him why he's not supposed to hump a dead moose. But he decided to, hump the dead moose anyway. This was a thing. What the world has come to. No. Put your dick away. That's not a wee washer. No, don't wash your feet in there. These are like things that. And also, Nick reminds everybody to go and order Encrypted Issue 4. Why order Encrypted Issue 4? Because it has the Statue of Liberty cover right there that everybody seems to like. Oh, yes. Let's hope that when Encrypted Issue 5 is shipped out in September, everybody will love the Union Jack London Underground cover that we did. Let's hope so. With enjoying this, as you see it right here, with all of its glory. And Nick just gifted a channel membership right there. So, oh, yes, you've got Nick to thank for getting the cherry going right here. We've got now 1 out of 3. Romer1389 just became a channel member. Now, can we get a super chat? And can we get business in the store going? Come on, somebody out there. And remember, there are autographed copies available, autographed copies, and also a separate you can get an autographed copy with a sketch done inside on the inside cover right here if you want that one. Yes, the autographed copies come with a bronze signature and the autographed and sketched in copies come with a silver signature. And yes, Nick just dropped in 600 jewels with a mic drop. Oh yes, he brought in jewels. It was a bag of jewels, Betty. They're jewels. They're jewels. They're jewels, Betty. So now we have 2 out of 3. We got 2 out of 3. We had jewels and we have memberships. So can we get business in the store tonight? Can somebody, and remember, you can either order issue 4 or you can pre-order issue 5, or, you know, be a real Chad and get yourself a 1-year subscription that will start with issue 4, because that's the current issue. And then from there, that'll bring you from issue 4 through 10. And yes, that is Tom Green. This is a segment where he went and brought in a bunch of farm animals into his house. He went to his parents' house and had a bunch of farm animals delivered. And remember, this was before he went and had the hood of his parents' car detailed to become the Slutmobile.
It's Animal Crackers. Out there! Hey, everybody, it's Animal Cracker time!
They call it the SPLC. It's a radical left outfit that spreads racial division. One of their leaders is Jocelyn Benson. Benson's SPLC just got indicted for funneling millions to people in extremist groups. Tell Jocelyn Benson, keep your race wars out of Michigan.
Okay, that's an opening ad that I absolutely love. The jewels, I still do not know what the jewels are for, but that's just something that YouTube added when it came to, it's a thing that you can do if you go on and streams on your phone. You can either drop in jewels or drop in super chats. And yes, this is the Tom Green Show. It's not the Green Tom Show. This is my favorite show because it is my show. If this was your show, you'd probably like it more, but that's is not the show, not the feature show. It's the Tom Green Show. Oh, ba, 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 no, da, ba. Now it is a Friday night, and I want to see if we can help the moose by humping it. We can bring the moose back by humping it. Come on, please help me. This moose is sexy. I can't control myself around this moose. The moose makes me sexy. It makes me a sexy boy. Dig dog, dig dog, dig dog, dig dog. Oh, what, are you guys leaving? I am not sure, says Nick. And Freva says, yeah, me neither. No, it's cool, I guess. I think the jewels are meant for if you bring a helicopter to your girlfriend's apartment and you want to profess your love to your girlfriend in a wheelchair, you give her the jewels. I have a bag of jewels for you, Betty.
Nobody lets an old man shop anymore. Come on, Bella.
Okay.
Oh no, I can't. Go back that way. It's new. Take it outside. It's new. I know. Take it outside. Oh God, what's going on here? I'm okay.
Gotta get him out of here.
I just got an email, and according to this, a stream of mine, an old stream of mine, just got blocked. Now look at this. Claimed content was found in your video, Art Uncensored, Zoe's Torment. That's a stream I did months ago, and apparently now it just got blocked. And yes, don't wash your jewels in shit or feet in the sink either. The fact that someone didn't hurt him for this is wild, yes, but now the stream I did from months ago now has been blocked because I showed clips from a stream, from multiple uploads that had edited footage of other movies in it, like Student Bodies and Expect to Die and all that. But now that means that, yes, as your video's been blocked, they can no longer be played. This is not a copyright strike and does not affect your channel. But yeah, that stream got blocked. So yes, it does affect the channel. And I'd like to remind you, yes, this got blocked, but Vosh can actively advocate for legalizing child porn and removing the age of consent and for sexual relationships between adults and children and not get blocked, not get a content strike, not get deplatformed. But I just got, a month's-old stream removed for showing some uploads that did reviews of a movie like Student Bodies. Who says the algorithm is weighted against anybody who doesn't agree with California cum dumpsters?
Just go outside here. Okay, please let go, please. Jeez, Louise! Jeez, Louise! Hey. Oh, God. Oh, no. I can't. Oh, jeez. You gotta get out of the store. Get up and get out. Got it all figured out. Oh, jeez, Louise. I just want to do my groceries. I just want to do my groceries. You cannot go in the store. Yeah, I'll just wait right here. I'll eat olive oil and mince meat. I'll wait right here. Bella! Where's Bella? Bella! It's like they don't let you do any shopping these days. Oh, my God, help me! Come on, Bella!
When you buy a used book.
Yes, I did see that. The new terms of service to make money on here, they couldn't get much more greedy, yeah. Apparently, YouTube hates its YouTubers unless they are California commies that came from money like Hassan or Vosh. Here's one. Crazy X horror stories. This is going to be fun.
I've had 3 girlfriends in my life. My current girlfriend, who I've been with for 3 years happily, my first girlfriend in college, and my second girlfriend, Kelly. Kelly was someone who put me through hell emotionally and sometimes physically. I'll start from the beginning. Kelly and I matched on Bumble, and upon seeing that we both attended the same college, we based our conversation off that and any people that we may have mutually known. After seeing each other for about a month, we made it official, and we dated for about 6 months. Like most relationships, at first everything seemed great, and we got along fine. But the illusion of being a happy couple faded after a few months, when Kelly would start becoming very controlling and downright obsessive over knowing what I was doing at all times. The longer we dated, the more I realized she didn't have many friends at all.
And then there's the one time I woke up and in the morning I saw she had made me a sandwich that was based from the flesh of my dead cat, and that she had duct taped the front door shut. And when I finally came back from my day's shift, she was standing there vomiting, shitting, and pissing herself.
Maybe 1 or 2, that's about it. So when I would go out to see my friends on the weekends without her, she would always obsessively text me every 15 minutes asking me for proof of where I was. If I were ever to be at a bar without her, she'd throw a fit. She'd make me share my location with her after 4 or 5 months of dating. It got to the point I couldn't handle it anymore. She had too much time.
Yes, she's a ghost right here is very much, played by Alexandra Daddario when pregnant, or Kate Upton. Very much a brunette Kate Upton.
Time on her hands to worry about what I was doing constantly. I couldn't even go see my friends without constantly being attacked and interrogated by her. But one night, things escalated far worse than they ever had. Admittedly, I ended up at a bar and very drunk with a group of my drinking buddies. We started at my friend Kevin's house, and I didn't intend on ending up at a bar. When I got home, Kelly was waiting in front of my mom's house for me, with a batshit crazy look on her face. This was one of the first nights that she laid hands on me, repeatedly hitting me while screaming I'm a dirty cheater and other insane things, all while outside, causing a scene for the neighbors to hear. After I had to grab her arms to get her to stop, she shouted things like, "Get off me, I'm calling the police." So I let go and told her we're done. This was officially when I broke up with her, and her response was not good. Every single day, I received paragraphs upon paragraphs ranging from angry to alleged regretfulness back to angry. Eventually, I felt more comfortable blocking Kelly for a while, but that wasn't the end. One of my friends who followed her on Instagram still sent me a screenshot of the picture she posted with this big, ugly, muscular guy who looked like he wanted to kill the person taking the picture. I made a joke to my friend saying, "Wow, I see she upgraded." Kelly did the unimaginable though. I was all cozy in my bed, in the perceived safety of the house. I was home alone, as I usually was living in my parents' house. That was when I heard a pounding at the front door downstairs. I jumped out of bed and went out to the living room to listen. There was a man's screams from the other side. He was screaming, "Open up, pussy." I didn't acknowledge him. I didn't want him to know I was home. Then some random number was calling my phone. When I didn't pick up, I got a text from someone threatening to kill me and telling me to open the door before he breaks the window. I ignored these and called 911.
Yes. Any chick pooping on your bed or whatever, eating your cat needs waterboarding. Yes, those are some of the details in the plot to Obsession that don't get talked about as much. But yes, the part of where his girlfriend, after making the wish, winds up making him a sandwich that is not turkey or, cheese or ham, but the flesh of his cat who died. And then when he comes home, she was just standing there in place the whole time he was gone at his job and was shitting and pissing on the floor. Thank goodness they never went out with a chick like this. And well, the joke that one Steven Crowder clip I showed you of the guy saying, "Really, this is just a documentary about dating a Latina." Well, looking up the actress, yes, Ida Neverate, who's the female lead of Obsession, actually is Latina. So yeah. Myth confirmed.
I heard glass breaking from outside. I looked out my window and I saw a familiar, huge bearded guy right by my SUV. He was smashing my windows. I recognized the guy to be from Kelly's picture. As I was on the phone with 911, I explained that my crazy ex-girlfriend sent her current boyfriend to my house to threaten me, and he was currently damaging my vehicle. I answered a bunch of questions as police were en route. All the while, the man kept screaming things from outside and pounding on my door and sending threatening texts. Police showed up surprisingly quickly to my relief, and they
sounded as though she was a keeper. Yes, seemingly.
Caught the guy still in front of my house. They saw him step off the front stoop after he saw the cop car pulling up. I went outside right away and showed the police my car and the texts, and the big, roid-raging man was still yelling at me that I'm gonna fucking pay for talking shit about him to Kelly. I told him I hadn't spoken to Kelly in months, and he said, "Oh yeah, what about the texts?" as he was in handcuffs already. I said, "What texts?" and he accused me of being a bullshitter. So after he was brought away in one of 2 police cars, I gave the second police officer whatever information he needed of the situation between Kelly and I, and he told me I had a good case for harassment and should definitely file for a restraining order immediately. He told me to head to the precinct the next day, which is what I did. But I also unblocked Kelly and asked her what she said to her boyfriend and why. And after she responded claiming she had no idea what I was talking about, I sent her a long text giving her a piece of my mind, basically telling her about my getting a restraining order and telling her to seek help. I never heard from her again, nor her crazy, roid-raging, now ex-boyfriend. According to my friend, she deleted the picture with him literally the next day after that happened. I currently have a restraining order against both her and her ex-boyfriend, Javier Cruz. Be careful who you decide to date. There's a whole lot of crazy out there.
Real cocktails. Perfect.
It sure did. With Latinas, the mom will keep them in check if they get out of control. Well, it is worth noting in the movie also that even before, and there's details we find out later in the movie before the wish winds up making her, obsessed like that, is of how her, having been hooking up with the protagonist's best friend behind his back, both of them behind his back. But then also besides that, she turns out that the protagonist had been lied to about her having a father who was dying of cancer. But then his best friend winds up looking into it, and it turns out no, her father had not had cancer, was not dying of cancer. He was actually perfectly fine and healthy, and just that she was not speaking to him. And there is never any reference to a mother. So, yeah, it's safe to say that, even before the One Wish Willow took effect, she was, definitely already having things in her that could then possibly lead to the scary shit that goes on in the movie. Like, lying about the father, and not just, making something up, but going up with something such an extreme lie about, he's dying of cancer. We know it's just that she's not talking to him. And also there's not even a reference to, her having a mom in her life. So no wonder, considering, the Latina mom will keep them in check, but then, without a mother, then, even without a supernatural wish making things crazy, there is still the chance that she'll, wind up becoming your freaky Nikki. And then when she sees you in a car chatting with one of your female coworkers, she'll then smash her fist through the window, grab the girl by the head, and smash her face into the driver's seat so much that it caves her head into mush, and all you see is a head that looks like hair, hamburger meat, and an eyeball. And then in the ending, she'll go and strip the dress off of the corpse of that female coworker and start wearing it, and then also drawing on her body in a marker to try to replicate the tattoos that female coworker has. And yes, Forever further elaborates, saying, I have seen Latinas get checked as adults for acting crazy with their boyfriends. Well. And hence, fatherless behavior. Not just in that context in fiction with the movie, but then also when you look at the, Patton Oswalt and drag lookalike chick that was on her knees screaming no when Trump got elected, or all the other examples of that when it comes to all the TikTok Trump election freakouts. There you go. Yeah. Well, the ones raised right get checked for sure, and the ones who don't are the ones who. And another thing also, one of the other major scenes of the movie is during like a big party with everybody long after she has, been under the wish and has been going, increasingly insane over it. She then also does a dramatic reading of a Hansel and Gretel retelling that the girl was writing. And she says, it's a book I've been working on, with the implication that she was working on this before the wish made her obsessed. And it is a retelling of Hansel and Gretel as incest porn. So you've got a girl that was quietly hooking up with your best friend behind your back with neither of them telling you, and also was making up a dark lie to hide the fact that she just is not speaking to her father. There's no mother around, ever referenced at all. And also she was writing some Hansel and Gretel, a retelling of Hansel and Gretel by way of Morning Glory Milking Farm. So it's almost like the insanity was already there, but this, wish is wound up making it even crazier. And also the fact that with the way the ending works, where she winds up just, swallowing all the pills left over from the pills that his cat got into and then accidentally consumed, leading to the cat dying and overdosing and all that. Then after he dies, then it snaps her out of the wish, and there she is laying there with her boyfriend who just OD'd on pills. And also earlier, before he takes all the pills, his best friend walked in on them, and the freaky Nikki shot him dead. So now she has 2 murders and a suicide to her name, and snapping out of her psychosis, seeing all this that's happened, and just her wailing in agony, gnashing in terror. So most definitely she's going to completely mentally collapse in on herself, and also definitely go to jail for homicide. Yep. That's definitely some freakiness going on. And also there's an interview that the actress playing the part recently said, where there was originally in the script, it was going to be she snaps out of the psychosis from the wish ending from the boyfriend's OD, and then she would just go and take what's left in the gun and take her own life. And they wound up doing in the alternate version of what the actress suggested. So it was the actress who suggested the even more disturbing ending of her being snapped out of this wish that made her this complete maniac, even though there was already signs of her not being that well. Like earlier on, like the very first scene of the guy making the wish and her now immediately going back to bed with him and going all like that. But there was a random moment of her snapping out of it and freaking and screaming and throttling around, only for her to suddenly now get back all up into wanting to, get to wrestle with that bear, if you know what I mean. And she winds up explaining, oh yeah, that was just an effect of she confirms his initial suspicion that she was just she was just freaking out because she was on MDMA, which she does confirm later. Oh yeah, I was just on MDMA. So you have a girl who was already admitting to having erratic behavior because of taking MDMA, and then also was secretly writing some Hansel and Gretel incest retelling, and also was sleeping around with your best friend behind your back with neither one of them telling you, and also was making up an insane dying of cancer lie to cover for how she just is not speaking to her father. So all of it boils down to fatherless behavior. But then it also leads to why the movie really does feel like a extremely gory, even by their standards, Tales from the Crypt style morality play with either a shock ending or an ironic comeuppance ending. In this case, it's more of a horrifying, disturbing shock ending, but I could easily see Obsession being like a film that if you added the Crypt Keeper at the beginning and the end, would have been a more fateful Tales from the Crypt movie than either of the official Tales from the Crypt movies from the 90s. And yes, I like Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood for different reasons, but neither one of them really fit into that gory morality tale or karmic, comeuppance kind of tale that was the story formula that the Tales from the Crypt comic books from the 50s really followed. But yes, oh wow, what a twisted ending. Twisted endings like that last in people's minds for years, yes. And also the fact that for a film that is so brutal and so disturbing in its morality play, does not really obsess over gore. Unlike, say, The Substance, which was basically Anita Sarkeesian's David Cronenberg fanfiction, and yet that's a movie that prides itself on everything being floodlit, and everything is so brightly lit and brightly colored and brightly photographed, and the filmmaking by this feminist filmmaker is shoving your head into all this disturbing, violent gore effects and constantly drooling over the naked bodies of its lead actresses, like some sort of, like I said, Anita Sarkeesian fan fiction of The Fly and The Nutty Professor at the same time, the 90s Nutty Professor specifically. And yet that got all kinds of Oscar nominations and all kinds of universal critical acclaim from shrieking ideologue mainstream filmmakers. While Obsession, the movie made by a Alabama-raised dude bro YouTuber, goes out of its way to shoot things as visually dark as possible, to not show things as, brightly out there and visceral and showing you every little gory detail, literally. Like multiple scenes of the lead actress completely having these psychotic episodes in the middle of the night, and all of them are almost shot in virtual darkness, so you're left with a disturbing sort of visual where you can sort of see her, but not quite. And there almost never is any big moment of her doing some big, loud, crazy jump scare antic where she's lunging at the camera into suddenly being floodlit. No. Hell, even like I said, the part of her caving the female coworker's face in on the steering wheel is shot mostly in the dark, and even when you see it in close-up, it's still so darkly lit that you sort of see the blood and gore, but it's not every little detail because the lighting isn't bright and all that, and they aren't going for camera angles that make everything so gory and violent and loud and crazy, like The Substance did. But The Substance was praised as some kind of great feminist invective, where you're like, the movie that's all about showing you every intense detail of a woman who is going through a horrifying transformation that physically and mentally drains her the more and more she does this. And also the fact that in The Substance, that is something where Demi Moore's character is willingly going through the substance of the title. So she increasingly is going through this thing that is physically transforming her into a younger version of herself that leads to a literal medical codependence where she must absolutely keep this thing alive. And the more that the other, version of her winds up inexplicably becoming its own personality that wants to control everything because, like I said, Nutty Professor. But then also at the same time, when she sees that this other younger version of her is going through this transformation and is intentionally lasting longer than she's supposed to, which is making the Demi Moore's version more and more decrepit, she winds up not ignoring it. She winds up not, giving up on the substance. She winds up continuing to abuse it. So you have this. So you have you have the substance, this Oscar-nominated, praised by all mainstream critics, and praised as a feminist, brilliant deconstruction that goes out of its way to subjugate and objectify and gore up and humiliate and mutilate its villains in a way that also has a story that makes sure to tell you that they are, willingly continue to go through this thing, to go through this experience that leads to, them and both halves of them being mutated and being exposed and mutilated into nothing in the end. But then Obsession, which is more staid and shooting things more visually dark, that goes into not wanting to show you every gory detail. Like the bit at the end I said where you see the co-worker who's been murdered and you see her, how she's been stripped of her dress because now Freaky Nikki is taking the dress and drawing the tattoos that the co-worker had on her body with a Sharpie to try to look like her. Well, the corpse we see in the rocking chair is shot from far away, and it's in a room with little to no lights. So you sort of see it, but it's not in bright 4K visual detail, as opposed to the substance where every single gore effect is constantly shown in bright white lights, in bright fluorescent lights, in bright white tiled rooms. So you see everything. But yet there's people bitching at Obsession because how dare they have, a woman shown. It's not a matter of showing a woman in a negative light. It's not showing them in a negative light that is used as some excuse for chud bashing. The sort of Sex and the City level circular logic and twisting the world to prove a point instead of telling a tale or of life as it is, or the world and the characters within that world of what they are, but to twist them and bend them to prove a point, dissolving into propaganda. E.g., why hackneyed feminist body horror fan fiction like The Substance got Oscar nomination heaped upon it. And we know that when it comes to Academy time next year, Obsession is not going to get jack shit. But that just shows you how film critics are absolutely meaningless, and how if you have the right genitals and the right political views, that you then bend every moment of your movie expressing your hackneyed political views. Will they go out of their way to absolutely love you every which way but loose. Yes. But no, the movie Obsession, that goes out of its way also to make sure that you do not see the woman going crazy and the woman going increasingly insane and violent. It also shows her not as being somebody that was choosing to do this, with everything, with the moments that give you hints at how even before the wish was made, she already was not that good of a person and had fucked up things in her mind. You still don't see her as somebody that was it wasn't like she was choosing to make this wish, or it was her becoming more and more insane or aggressive on her own. And there's even scenes of her talking, like, say, in her sleep, where it's the real her talking through the sport where the evil, obsessive, freaky side of her is, in charge. So she's actually begging the male protagonist to kill her. And even in a moment of weakness with him, where says, really being dead is better than being with me. And she actually explains, you never really had me. You never really were with me. You were with her, referring to Freaky Nikki as a separate personality, as a separate person, as this psychotic other thing that came from the One Wish Willow being done, from being used on her. As opposed to The Substance, where Demi Moore has no one to blame for going through and agreeing to this insane, radical, underground medical experiment, but she has no one to blame but herself. But of course, the movie goes out of its way to have, some sort of like Sex and the City level hackneyed circular logic to explain how, oh no, it was society that made her do this. No, you're in control of your actions, but somehow in that kind of logic, a movie where a woman keeps unwillingly choosing to use the substance is somehow less to blame than in Obsession, where a woman literally does not have control over herself through a supernatural wish against her will, making her into this girlfriend, overly attached girlfriend turned Amber Heard. And yes, The Substance is just about women past their prime crying about and acting like we should care. I got news for ladies in Hollywood. No one cares. Yes. And that's also another thing about why a movie like Obsession, which grew naturally its audience at the box office to the point where, remember, Obsession is the first movie since E.T. to grow its box office intake 3 weeks in a row. Meaning, yeah, it opened number 3 behind The Devil Wears Prada 2 and the Michael movie, and yet through the earned word of mouth of how well this movie, resonated with the people who took a chance on it the opening weekend, it then spent the next 3 weeks making more money than the week before, which is something that almost absolutely positively never happens. To the point where when it comes to some movie that a studio puts a bunch of money behind and it's a social justice piece of shit, they then try to go and explain that, oh no, it was a hit. Oh, take the L chuds because it opened well in its opening weekend, only for then it to collapse at the box office faster than Green Lantern did in all of its following weekends. And those films having Herculean budgets and marketing costs, it also becomes something where there's all the other money in there that it was not able to earn back. While Obsession earned its audience growing 3 weeks in a row at the box office through the sheer word of mouth of it alone. And on top of that, the idea, whether it's a movie is something you like or dislike, the plot around Obsession is taking a supernatural story device, a plot device, to make it something where it's horror based off of something that people can actually relate to. Relationship anxieties or personal anxieties about you're into that girl, but you've got your own self-defeating, aversion to simply telling her how you feel or asking her out or whatever. Or if you have a relationship where you're dating a psycho and it turns out, oh my God, this woman is completely fucking insane, and you feel like you're stuck in some type of horrifying catch-22, where if you even approach the topic of trying to break up with her, then you'll wind up just like what Amber Heard had done to Johnny Depp. That's something that general people can relate to or can have some sort of understanding with, whether they'll see it, if they are the type of woman that is the real life version of a Freaky Nikki situation, and then they'll look at it and they'll see the movie and they'll not like it because they see themselves in that and it pisses them off. Or you'll see those guys that, relate to that, or they at least empathize because they know a guy like that. Like there'll be people in the crowd that have known a guy that was in some type of obsessive, overly attached girlfriend relationship like that, or they know a woman who is that type of overly attached girlfriend like that. As opposed to the substance, which is what I've called a 2% concept. It doesn't have to necessarily be a horror movie. It can be science fiction, it can be a teen drama, whatever, but it's one of those type of premises that only appeals to 2% of the audience. And most of that 2% is constituted by the filmmakers or by film critics or the terminally online. And e.g., The Substance being a movie that appeals exclusively to those that are the actresses whose entire lives revolve around, I'm mad that I'm not young and beautiful anymore. And yet, that's something that only 2% of the population can either relate to or, gives a shit about at all. But of course, because, Hollywood going to Hollywood, and at the end of the day, The Substance was a movie all about Hollywood. And because if you want to make a movie that gets knee-jerk Oscar contention, one of the things you got to do, one of the things you can always do, is to make a movie that's about the entertainment industry in some way. And Hollywood will be firing Oscar nominations at it from a cannon. Just look at Argo or The Artist. I mean, come on. So, yeah, of course, that's another one where Hollywood will go and give it all the Oscar contention they want. And, a movie like Obsession, made by an actual independent voice who, when he couldn't get his previous movie put in any kind of theaters or even get it distributed through streaming services, Curry Barker said, fuck you. And he wound up uploading his feature film debut, Milk and Cereal, to his YouTube channel in complete defiance of the conventional way of doing things. Unlike all these shrieking ideologues who need to make Star Wars miniseries into rants about their pussy politics, or who need to make, a sequel to some movie from decades ago that's now just all a rant about girl bosses because they can't make it on their own. Unlike Curry Barker, who went and made Obsession and made it on his own, and then Milk and Cereal got such a positive reception, it's what led to him getting Blumhouse to go and put, $750,000 behind Obsession. And now Obsession doing so well that now he's got an 8-figure deal for his next movie, which is not going to be a sequel, but it's going to be in it's going to be in the same world as Obsession. And there's going to be background references to it, the novels of Bret Easton Ellis, the guy who wrote the books that became Psycho and Less Than Zero, his novels, when he first started getting published in the 80s and ever since then, are all have their like characters or references that are interwoven with each other. Like the protagonist of his first book, which was about a law student, is his last name is Bateman, and he has a brother who visits him in college in the novel named Patrick. So yes, the protagonist of The Laws of Attraction is the younger brother of the protagonist of American Psycho. And that's just one of many little interlocking kind of references that shows, that Adam Sandler did with his movies years before the MCU ever existed. Adam Sandler had his films all in the shared universe, just like with the works of Bret Easton Ellis, long before the MCU ever did that. And now we're going to get something like that with Corey Barker's next movie. And also there's the idea of maybe doing a Obsession streaming series that, or like an anthology series where it would be an anthology like Tales from the Crypt, where each episode would be a different horror story built around someone using the One-Wish Willow and the Tales from the Crypt style horrifying consequences of that, which honestly I would actually be excited for. If they would put that on Peacock, I would absolutely love that. Because I think this was something that was entirely made from whole cloth, that was inspired by the Monkey's Paw segment on an early Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. So yeah, why not take that and make it into an anthology show as doing like sequels to it? I don't think, like movie sequels, I don't think so. Streaming, yeah, that would work better. Because it's not like, say, with Backrooms, where, Kate Parsons spent years building up a whole lore to the Backrooms, starting with that one found footage short film and then doing a succession of them that built this whole Async Corporation origin and studying of the Backrooms behind it. So that's something where, yeah, if you know the whole lore of the Backrooms creepypasta, yeah, you could go and do sequels to that. Although from what I saw with Wendigoon's video about the movie after it came out, it's more like the idea of, well, Kate Parsons is now going through either doing like a completely original film as his follow-up movie, or maybe doing a sequel, or maybe doing some kind of streaming series or whatever. But with Backrooms, I know what I said when the movie first came out, and how, yeah, it's a great standalone film, but I wouldn't want to see it be done, as like an incessant amount of sequels. But that was before I saw the YouTube creepypasta stuff, and I could see, oh wait, yeah, there is all this lore behind it that you could go and do movie sequels out of. So, when there's new information out there, I'll stand corrected. And yeah, Forever says, if they made a series like, if they made Obsession the series, like a modern Tales from the Crypt, I'd watch that. Yeah, I'd watch that too. Yeah, good on him, referring to Corey Barker. Let's hope his next movie is just as good. I hope so. Or, the obvious like knee-jerk kind of like pun to think of would be, well, imagine him collaborating with Clive Barker on something. Wouldn't that be, Clive Barker, Mr. Hellraiser? The name gimmick alone, the Barkers finally together, and collaborating on, I don't know what it would be, considering how old and decrepit and in precarious health Clive Barker is today, maybe have him involved as like a screenwriter on something that he could then work with, and Corey Barker could then go and direct. That might be something. And going back to, Obsession, Forever says, the funny thing is, there are guys that would still try and go out with a girl like this, and they think they can fix her. Yes, dude, run. As Shuon had accurately said in that female dating strategy video, yeah, you all want the yandere anime girlfriend until you actually see her in real life. And yes, if you want to talk about the yandere or yandere, however you pronounce it, anime type, if you want to see the horror movie version of that, that's what Obsession is. Hence why I also said Obsession is basically the American spiritual successor to Audition, that notorious late 90s Japanese horror film that was so notorious and also so legendary that it was one of those few of that big boom of horror films in Japan from the late 90s that never got a Hollywood remake. There was that in Shuki Jitsu, the one that was directed by Hideaki Anno, starring Steven Seagal's daughter based on her novel. So you have the interesting, novelty of a writer starring as the lead in a film based on their own book. And yes, Ayako Fujitani, she is the oldest daughter of Steven Seagal, and her novel Shukijitsu then got adapted into a live-action horror film from the creator of Evangelion. Yeah. So, yeah, and if you've ever seen Audition, I will definitely say it is a film that lives up to its notorious reputation. And if you watch the film after, watching or at least hearing about Obsession, most definitely you would see Obsession as the spiritual successor to that, or as close as anybody in Hollywood is going to get to just flat out doing a remake of that. And also, considering the ideological lines with which Hollywood built itself around, you definitely know that no studio is going to go and remake Audition without doing everything it can to change the story to make it that it's righteous of the, psycho girl to be mutilating a random guy. Which, we've already, I'm sure you've probably come across some of those, in Praise the Shadows style, wannabe breadtuber horror YouTubers, and or like the op-eds and blog posts that want to defend the villain in Audition as, oh no, it's righteous for her to mutilate and torture some random guy that she just was started dating. Yes, because what happened to her as a child justifies mutilating a man that did nothing to her. And yes, Forever says, I had no idea she was dating Seafool's daughter. Yeah, Ayako Fujitani, and that's not even like the best known thing she has to her name as an actress. She was one of the recurring female leads in the 90s Gamera movies. Yes, the unironically good Gamera movies from the 90s, the ones that were better than the 90s Godzilla movies. And the Heisei era of Godzilla films, I would say, is the best era with the most quality control to them. But even they still they're good, but they're not as good as the Heisei Gamera movies from the 90s, which were all co-directed by the future co-director of Shin Godzilla, Shinji Higuchi, yes, who was also a collaborator with Hideaki Anno on Evangelion. And yeah, while even as Evangelion happened, also he did all the special effects for the 90s Gamera films. And they have a pair of recurring female leads, one of them being played by Ayako Fujitani. And the film, the first of the Gamera trilogy in the 90s, even got critical acclaim from Siskel and Ebert, and who even brought up it's the film starring Steven Seagal's daughter, Ayako Fujitani. And also because that's one of those type of 90s genre cult films that has a big Steelbook Blu-ray release through Arrow Video, I believe. They also are all available to watch for free on Pluto and Tubi. The weird paradox of those 80s, 90s genre cult films that have those expensive Blu-ray releases also are almost always, to a man, free on Tubi. It's so weird to say, but there it is. It's a good time, an interesting time. And also, yeah, here is a ghost all done up, dressed to the nines. I hope you like her. And yeah, I went with floral white to try to give like some gray tone to her cape, but the floral white wound up looking more like her skin tone than expected. I thought, floral white would mean it would be closer to white in almost like a grayscale, but no, at the end, it turns out I should have just gone and used like the neutral 1 or neutral 0. The neutral gray 0 or neutral gray 1, but I mean, okay, live and learn. But RJ says it looks great, so okay. So yes, check it out, And also, yeah, and Ghost came out great. Hail to the boobas. Yes. Well, Forever, I have a question. Do these remind you of your high school girlfriend's boobas? Do they? La ta ta, la 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 ta 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 ta. They like them. Ooh. Would you like to see her go and do what that TV kids show on The Simpsons when they go to Brazil? Where it's like it's a flamenco dancer who has tassels that she uses to demonstrate clockwise and counterclockwise. And Forever says, yes, hell yeah, dude. Perfect. Great to know. Yes. But on that note, I want to thank you all for watching. Subscribe so the channel will reach 10,000 subs. Become a channel member today and sharpen my art store with that first link in the description where you can buy my art or commission me, or you can support me directly with a donation, or you can go and pre-order issue 5 of my comic book Encrypted, where a regular copy is 5, an autographed copy is 10, an autographed and sketched in copy is 20, or you can get a 1-year subscription for 60, or 1-year subscription with your copies autographed for 90. Tomorrow, I'll have new shorts at 5 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 and 6. I'll have a new video at 6:30. I'll be live again at 10. And right here at the 0 hour, we just got ourselves a nice little order of a little something something. And what is that little something something? Oh, yes, our friend Alpha Proto just went and ordered himself a copy of issue 4 of Encrypted. But not just any copy. He went and ordered himself an autographed copy with an inside cover sketch. So everybody say hello to Alpha Proto right here for giving us a reason to stretch on a little longer past the sign off. Because, well, Alpha, once again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And what exactly would you like to see? Just give us all a little hint at what is it you would like to see me do with this. What exactly do you have in mind? What are you looking for? What would you like? Or is this another one where you would want me to just go and, make it up off the top of my head? Or do you have a specific character in mind? Because, yes, everybody thank Alpha Proto for making this stream a trifecta between Nick's gifted membership and also the jewels he gifted. Now Alpha Proto went and got his order for issue 4. So that means we got ourselves now a trifecta night. All 3 things to truly make the night successful. There we go, there we go, there we go. Oh, yes. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? We're going to get it fine. Up, 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 a 9, 9, nice and fine. And also, due to your order, you're going to get a little extra gouache painting right in here. One of these 3 little gouache paintings I did will be yours. Just a fooling around with the gouache paint set I was gifted and these little postcard-sized gouache painting sets. One of these 3 will be gifted to you after we go and ship out Alpha Proto's request of drawing Phoebe Cates as Rogue. You got it, yes. Because now, actually, to think about it, the mental image of Phoebe Cates as, Rogue in like an 80s X-Men movie would have been perfect. Like when people do I've seen people online do like fan casting of the X-Men as an 80s movie. And like the one I always remember the most is the idea of Jennifer Connelly as Kitty Pryde. Yes, Jennifer Connelly as Kitty Pryde and Phoebe Cates as Rogue in an 80s X-Men movie would have been perfect. So yes, 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 you want it, you got it. And also our friend Ghost right here. Getting ourselves a little bit of fun. We got ourselves some good fun time. And yes, it is a good choice. Well, the order came through, so it's not just a good choice forever. It's an excellent choice. Absolutely, positively. And of course, Alpha, one last question. Would you want to see this drawn on stream, or would you want me to go and do this in private? The last question for Alpha Proto, with good commissions like this, same thing with our friend Teddy, who said that he actually wanted to go and upgrade the commissions he wanted to color pieces instead of pen and ink. So we'll be waiting on him for that to be confirmed, and then with him to email the reference he was requesting, so that then we can go and do those anime commissions that he wanted, in color. And Alpha Proto confirms yes. He wants Phoebe Cates as Rogue on stream. You want it, you got it, because, well, remember, she won't be coming out of the pool in slow motion. She'll be flying down from the south in slow motion to tell you how cute she always thought you were. And then she'll go and slow motion unzip her tights and out come the titties. And also, Alpha Proto says, then I'll have evidence of it being by you. Yes, because that sort of proof of life is perfect. Yes, that's why I went and all the issues of Encrypted that I've done since publishing it, I wound up doing on stream, the pages on stream to give you all proof of life that yes, I was actually doing it. So, the same thing with these cover sketches. Great, great, great. So, until then, felines, slam it, lick it, suck it, and see you, Space Cowboy.